Hi, I'm Bill Newcott, and today we're going to get lost. We're down here at Fenwick Island at the lighthouse. It's our starting point. The whole idea of this whole trip that we're going to take today is to weave our way around the back of the bay, starting here at this lighthouse and ending up at the Cape Henlopen lighthouse, over where the Cape Henlopen lighthouse used to be. I'm kind of in the last vestiges of not knowing where I am around here, ever. And before that happens, before I become a native, I want to go out and just explore the area and find places I've never been and see some unusual sights. Anyway, we're here in Fenwick, and actually we're cheating a little bit right now because we're actually standing in Maryland. And I'll show you over here the point where it switches from one state to another, and it's kind of interesting. Come on, I'll show you. Get a load of this. I love this thing. This is a monument that was put here in 1751, right on the Delaware-Maryland line. My left foot is in Maryland, my right foot is in Delaware. You can see on this side, it's engraved with the Calvert family crest. That's now part of the Maryland flag. On this side are the 3 dots of the Penn family, William Penn, because this was actually, at the time, Delaware didn't exist. This would have been Pennsylvania back then. The trouble with this is, this monument tells me exactly where I am, and this will not do. I want to get lost, so let's go get lost. We're at Sound United Methodist Church. It's a 100-year-old building, but I can almost guarantee you these windows are not that old. So what caught me with these faces on the stained glass here in this church. It sort of marries the folk art with the ancient art of stained glass. I've been trying to get the story of these windows ever since the first time I passed by here. I've called the church, I've come by on other days, there's never anyone here. I want to know who this artist was or is. I want to know where they came from. And I guess it's going to be another story sometime because I'm dying to know. So I've taken a random left-hand turn off of Lighthouse Road onto a road called Williamsville Road. And it just looks like it's going nowhere. And I know if we keep going down this way, we're going to end up dumping into Little Assawoman Bay or Big Assawoman Bay because we're heading south. But it's getting more and more into the country here, and I'm liking this, because the signs of civilization are dropping away. Isn't this place fantastic? This is Lost Lands RV Park, out in the middle of nowhere, actually just a little bit between, just a little on this side of Selbyville. It's not a year-round community, but it has at its heart this chicken house that goes back to the 1980s, and you could lie down most of the Washington Monument and put it inside this thing. It's a real throwback, and when you make this turn out here in the middle of nowhere and just come upon it, it's kind of like coming upon a rustic kind of Oz in some ways. We're in Selbyville. We've made it all the way to Selbyville, and this is the Redmond Cemetery in Selbyville. There were actually a few Redmond cemeteries around this area. They were put up about 100 years ago, or started by about 100 years ago, by a group called the Redmond, which is a fraternal organization. Still exists, but it's kind of in decline. This is an interesting one because where I'm standing at right here is the gravesite of John Townsend, who was the governor of Delaware. To show you how fantastic cemeteries are, and this one in particular, there's a stone here for Pepper. William Paul Pepper. He was the assistant lighthouse keeper at the Fenwick Island Lighthouse. And he lived in that little house next to the lighthouse with his family. We're about 10 miles away from the lighthouse, and lo and behold, here is his cemetery lot with the lighthouse right on the stone. When you're towards the beach here in Delaware, lower Delaware, the towns have unfortunately begun to all grow together. They're almost taking on a suburban feel. You can't tell when you're going from one town to the other. But here, a little farther west, we have left Selbyville, we're heading for Frankfort, and it's just farmland in between. And it has a very Midwest feel about it, I think, where the towns are isolated from each other. Each has their own personality and their own populace and their own individual histories, and I find that really very appealing. This is James Reliable in Dagsboro. I guarantee you, it's the only business in town with a full-size rocket ship in the front lawn. And that's what caught me when I was driving by trying to get lost around here. This is a business unlike any other I've ever seen. Karen and David Jane have been, for the past 8 years or so, collecting everything, just everything that they could possibly sell. There's maybe a half an acre of chains and signs and chairs and hardware. Inside the house are lots of little knickknacks that are a little more delicate from collections perhaps. But you could spend hours here, as I did. They're a charming couple and they're very welcoming, and you'll have a lot of fun here. I know it's an interesting stop, totally unexpected. Never seen, as I said, anything like it. It's great. Every once in a while, there's a little stretch of road that you just love, and it's hard to put your finger on why. And this little stretch just north of Millsboro is one of them. With this pond on one side, Millsboro Pond, and the winding road and the houses right on it, it reminds me of New Hampshire. I feel like, for a moment, this little quarter of a mile, I'm in New England. We're at Fort Miles and Cape Henlopen. You can tell I couldn't get lost after Millsboro. There are too many towns I recognize, too many developments where I have friends, too many landmarks. As I stand here, I'm reminded of a sand dune that used to stand not far from here, the giant lighthouse that was on top of it. The lighthouse is gone, the sand dune is gone, they're out in the middle of the sea now somewhere. And for someone like me, that's a reason to hope. Because it reminded me that in the course of a lifetime, those landmarks, those very strange same things that make it impossible to get lost, can go away. So it just reminds me that in the course of 10 years perhaps, enough landmarks will be gone, enough things will change, that someone like me can once again drive out into the back roads of coastal Delaware and get lost.